What if I told you that, in just 15 minutes, you can prove to yourself that consciousness moves matter, that there is a practical, safe, ancient technique that lets you feel and manipulate a subtle energy pulsing inside you, and that this is the key to accessing your hidden power? This isn't just another video about believing in miracles. It's about testing a forgotten reality, documented by spiritual masters for millennia and ignored by the modern materialist paradigm. Today, you'll discover how magic, far from being fantasy, is simply the old name for something science still hasn't mapped: consciousness directing energy with precision. By the end of this video, you won't just understand this intellectually, you'll feel it in your own body. Now tell me in the comments, "I am consciousness in action." Write that sentence to anchor this truth in your reality and spread good vibes to everyone who reads it. Jacobo Grinberg, a Mexican neurophysiologist and one of the greatest consciousness researchers of the 20th century, dedicated his life to uniting spirituality and science in a single language. His synergetic theory proposes that reality is not something external and fixed, but a dynamic construction shaped by consciousness. According to him, there is an informational field accessed by those who develop perception beyond the ordinary senses, and it is in this field that phenomena considered magical become possible, logical, and replicable. Grinberg studied shamans, yogis, and mystics from many traditions, identifying patterns of experience and practice that converged on the same conclusion: when properly trained, the human mind can directly influence matter. What cultures called siddhis, miracles or divine gifts, he recognized as natural expressions of awakened consciousness. In this video, we'll use that foundation to show how age-old techniques, described with almost scientific precision, can be applied today to verify in practice that you are not just a body, you are consciousness capable of moving energy with intention, something mystics of every culture knew, but which the modern materialist view insists on denying. For many, the word magic evokes images of tricks, illusionism, or mystical fantasies far from reality. Yet when we look deeply into the oldest spiritual traditions of humanity, we see that the term describes something much more real and essential: the capacity of consciousness to manipulate energy and, with it, shape reality. This is the basis of true magic, not a violation of natural laws, but the operation of subtler laws that most people simply never learn to perceive. Jacobo Grinberg asserted that consciousness is not a product of the brain, but the field in which all reality manifests. This view is shared by traditions like Vedanta, Dzogchen, Taoism, and even some mystical Christian schools. In this model, consciousness is the fundamental substance of the universe, and what we call matter, time, space, and body are only temporary expressions within that field. Magic happens when consciousness begins to recognize itself as creator and learns to direct its attention, intention, and energy deliberately. What was automatic, unconscious, and chaotic becomes precise, conscious, and transformative. When a practitioner trains inwardly for years and develops deep concentration, they begin to access subtler layers of reality, layers where matter and energy are not separate, where intention is not just a thought, but a force of action. At that level of perception, the impossible falls away. Matter, as quantum physics has already shown, is essentially condensed energy, and the way that energy organizes itself responds to the consciousness that observes it. This isn't just philosophy. Spiritual masters from Tibet, India, the Americas, and many other regions described with exactness techniques that produce effects challenging the materialist paradigm: levitation, bilocation, telepathy, physical regeneration, and more. But all of this begins with a simple yet powerful shift, recognizing that you are not a body with a consciousness, but a consciousness temporarily using a body. And this consciousness has the power to create, shape, dissolve, and transform. When you understand that magic is simply an old name for the conscious manipulation of energy, your entire worldview begins to expand. You leave the role of a passive victim of chance and step into the place of co-creator of your reality. Energy is always moving. The question is, are you moving it consciously, or are you being moved by it without knowing? In virtually every spiritual culture on the planet, we find accounts of people who manifested abilities that defy common understandings of reality. They are called siddhis in the Hindu tradition, miracles in Christianity, karamat in Sufism, fachi in Taoism, mana in Polynesian cultures, different names for the same phenomenon, consciousness acting directly on matter, space, and time. These accounts are not vague or merely symbolic. They are technical descriptions, often with enough detail to be replicated by serious practitioners. A notable example is that of a Tibetan yogini, who in the middle of winter in the Himalayas warmed her own body with a breathing practice called tummo, melting the snow in a radius of more than 4 meters around her, observed by dozens of witnesses. Another famous case is the Christian Saint Joseph of Cupertino, whose levitations were documented by hundreds of people, including church and state authorities. In southern India, historical records speak of Tamil Siddha masters who lived for more than 200 years, rejuvenating their bodies through alchemical formulas and advanced control of vital energy. There are also accounts of masters who manipulated metals, transformed substances, and even built temples with stones that seem to have been moved by sound or vibration, according to lost techniques of energetic resonance. The common thread among these reports is their consistency. Despite geographic and cultural distances, the abilities described are practically the same: levitation, telepathy, clairvoyance, materialization, invisibility, control over the elements, among others. This suggests they are not isolated delusions or imaginative folklore, but a pattern of access to reality from an expanded state of consciousness. Moreover, many of these accounts include precise instructions: what kind of breathing to use, which postures to adopt, which sounds to chant, which visualizations to employ. Some traditions, like tantric yoga, hold detailed maps for cultivating these abilities with almost scientific accuracy. They are technical manuals, not just inspiring myths. Jacobo Grinberg argued that if multiple unconnected cultures reached the same conclusions about the powers of consciousness, this points to a universal truth. Either they all lied for millennia in different languages, styles, and systems, or there is something real those traditions discovered, which the modern materialist paradigm still lacks the tools to understand. These evidences invite us to shift our perspective. It's not about believing or not believing, but about recognizing that we may be ignoring an essential aspect of reality due to lack of training, not lack of truth. The mind seeks proof. That's natural. We spend much of life stuck in concepts, ideas, and inherited or imposed beliefs, but we rarely have direct contact with pure experience. What we propose here is not another pretty theory or comforting belief. It is an empirical test. A simple technique you can apply today, safely, to feel the movement of vital energy with your own consciousness. No faith, no intermediaries, no complex symbols, just you, your attention, and the energy field that has always been there. The practice begins with an ancestral gesture. Rub your palms together for about 30 seconds. The generated heat activates the energy centers in the hands, recognized in many traditions as points for emitting and receiving energy. Then, with your palms warm, separate them slightly, about 6 inches, facing each other as if you were holding an invisible sphere. Now, the essential part: place your attention on the space between your hands. Don't try to imagine anything, just observe. In a few moments, you'll start to feel something. It might be tingling, pressure, a slight magnetism, a subtle resistance between your hands. That is the activated energy field, and your consciousness is the instrument perceiving this movement. Going deeper, you can begin to move your hands slowly, bringing them closer and farther apart, sensing how this sphere seems to expand and compress. It isn't imaginary. It's real. It is vital energy activated by heat, friction, and focused awareness. This field is what the Chinese call qi, the Indians call prana, and the Hawaiians call mana. And here, you're not studying it, you're feeling it directly. A second step in the technique is to visualize energetic breathing. Imagine that you inhale through your left palm and exhale through your right. There is no need to alter your physical breathing. What matters is the mental image. In a short time, many practitioners feel a directional flow, as if the energy were truly moving between the hands. This is the crucial point. Mental intention, combined with visualization and attention, directs energy. This experience is more than a curiosity. It reveals that consciousness is not passive. It is active, influential, creative. You're not just observing a sensation, you're shaping it with the focus of your attention. In practice, this shatters the idea that we are limited to a physical body governed only by chemical and neurological laws. Something more is happening, something you are witnessing directly right now. This is the basis of true magic. Direct experience, without intermediaries, without fantasy, without dogma. The foundation of all real transformation rests on three fundamental forces: energy, attention, and intention. These are not abstract ideas or philosophical concepts. They are practical, accessible, verifiable tools operating behind the scenes of every experience you have, from the most ordinary to the most extraordinary. Vital energy is the force that animates all living beings. It isn't only inside you, it permeates everything that exists, flowing among bodies, environments, thoughts, and emotions. This energy can be cultivated, directed, stored, or dissipated depending on how you relate to it. In the human body, it circulates through subtle channels mapped by various spiritual traditions, like the nadis of yoga or the meridians of Chinese medicine. But what activates and directs this energy is something subtler: conscious attention. Where attention goes, energy flows. This is one of the most powerful universal principles there is. Try a simple experiment. When you direct your attention long enough to any part of your body, that region begins to throb, warm, vibrate, or become more sensitive. It's not only a neurological response, it's a reorganization of the energy field through focused consciousness. What was scattered gains direction. What was random becomes intentional. And this is where intention comes in. Attention without direction is just observation, but attention allied with intention creates transformation. Intention is the frequency you imprint on the energy you are moving. When you combine a clear visualization with sustained attention and coherent intention, you create what we call a modified reality field, where what seemed fixed becomes changeable, where what seemed impossible begins to move. This is the hidden structure behind so-called miracles. They are not violations of the laws of nature, but results of correctly applying these three combined forces. A master who levitates isn't defying gravity. They are operating at a level where gravity is just one variable among many that awakened consciousness can modify. This conscious manipulation of reality doesn't begin with big phenomena. It begins with simple gestures, shifting your emotional state with breathing, easing pain with focused attention, sensing the energy field of your hands. With practice, this sensitivity grows, and your ability to act intentionally upon the energy of life expands with it. Reality stops being something that happens to you and becomes something that responds to your conscious presence. These are the true foundations of real magic. There are no spells and no tricks, only a direct, lucid, disciplined relationship with the life force that runs through everything. When someone discovers that consciousness can move energy and, with practice, generate extraordinary abilities, the most common reaction is awe. The mind immediately projects scenarios, instant healings, reality manipulation, spiritual status, admiration. However, authentic masters from every tradition agree on a fundamental point: seeking powers can become the greatest obstacle to true realization. The paradox is that the abilities, though real and accessible, are not the goal of the path. They are byproducts, side effects of a consciousness that has gone so deep into itself that it has touched levels of reality where the impossible becomes natural. But when the practitioner starts to pursue these manifestations as an end, something subtle and dangerous happens. The spiritual ego takes control. This ego isn't the same as everyday vanity. It's more sophisticated, more seductive. It's the feeling of being chosen, advanced, different. The seeker begins to identify with the abilities and, without noticing, drifts away from the essence, the consciousness that observes everything without attachment. What was a path of liberation becomes another form of prison, now wrapped in mysticism and power. Jacobo Grinberg pointed out that true spiritual advancement lies not in developing abilities, but in recognizing the structure of reality as consciousness in action. The siddhis, as they are called in the Indian tradition, are signs that consciousness is penetrating subtler levels, but they are also traps. Tibetan masters, for example, describe powers like levitation, remote vision, and control of time, yet use these capacities with extreme discretion, often avoiding demonstrating them even to their own disciples. Why? Because the mind clings easily to spectacle, and attachment is the opposite of freedom. When a practitioner clings to experience, they reinforce the idea of being a separate someone who possesses something special, and it is precisely that belief in separation that blocks deep awakening. The true teaching is that you are not the being who has powers, but the consciousness in which powers arise and disappear. Moreover, every ability depends on mental, emotional, and energetic stability. Developing powers upon an unstable inner structure is like handing a sharp sword to a child. There is no shortage of stories about practitioners who achieved extraordinary phenomena, yet lost themselves in delusions of grandeur, manipulation, or self-destruction. Spiritual traditions kept their secrets for millennia precisely to protect seekers and others from the misuse of these forces. Therefore, the paradox is clear. Powers prove that reality is shaped by consciousness, but chasing powers obscures consciousness itself. True practice means using manifestations as indicators of progress, never as the final destination. What matters is not what you can do with energy, but who you recognize yourself to be while doing or not doing anything. After the whole path, from theory to practice, from energy to the paradox of powers, only one true direction remains. Look directly at that which perceives all of this. The deepest, most transformative point of this process is not moving energy, accessing hidden abilities, or transcending physical limits. It is recognizing that you are the very unlimited consciousness in which all of this happens. That consciousness cannot be located in the body. It isn't in the thoughts, nor in the emotions, nor even in subtle energy. All of that appears and disappears. But that which observes, that which witnesses, remains. What is it? This I that does not change, that was present when you were a child, a teenager, an adult, that is here now, silently aware of everything that passes. This is what you truly are. The highest traditions, Advaita Vedanta, Tibetan Dzogchen, and the deepest teachings of Christian mysticism say the same thing in different words. You are not an individual who has consciousness. You are the consciousness in which the idea of an individual appears. That consciousness is neither born nor dies. It is not limited by the body or by experiences. It is the space in which everything happens and which is never affected by what it contains. When you realize this, not as a concept, but as a direct perception, everything changes. The search ends, because you understand there is nothing to attain outside yourself. All powers, techniques, and practices become irrelevant, not because they lack value, but because you have found what lies beyond all phenomena, the source. This realization does not deny the world. On the contrary, it reveals the world as an expression of that same consciousness. Everything you see, feel, and think is movement within yourself. You are the silent space in which the universe appears. And paradoxical as it may seem, this is the most liberating experience a being can have, to recognize yourself not as form, but as presence, not as energy, but as the light that perceives energy, not as someone, but as the field in which all someones arise. Energy practice, techniques, and exercises all have value as long as they are used as doorways. But true awakening happens when you look within and ask, who is it that perceives all this? And when you search for that I, you don't find a form, a story, or a limit. You find only pure consciousness, untouched, silent, and free. This is the end point and the true beginning, the place where the seeker disappears and truth simply is, with no need for proof, with no spectacle, only living, awakened presence. Now that you've accessed this knowledge and, more importantly, had the chance to experience the reality that consciousness moves energy, the next step is yours. The technique you learned here is only the beginning. Real transformation happens when you integrate this understanding into your daily life. It's not about practicing once and going back to autopilot. It's about cultivating presence, intention, and perception every day until it becomes your natural way of being. Set aside 15 minutes a day to repeat the palm energy practice. Use that moment as a portal to feel, observe, and recognize who you really are. The more clearly and consistently you direct your attention, the more naturally your energy field will align, revealing new perceptions and, over time, opening possibilities that once seemed unimaginable. If this content touched something in you, if it opened a new view of the world, subscribe to the channel. We're building a community of sincere seekers committed to the awakening of consciousness, and your presence here is part of that. Share this video with someone you feel is ready to take this inner leap. And remember, the magic isn't outside. It is your very nature, waiting to be recognized.